Welcome to another deep dive, listeners. I'm Hari.
And I'm Kimi. Today we are looking at a storm that practically rewrote the meteorological rulebook in 2015. We are talking about the infamous Hurricane Joaquin.
This definitely was not your typical tropical cyclone. In fact, Joaquin holds the record as the strongest Atlantic hurricane of non-tropical origin in the entire satellite era. It started as an upper-level low well southwest of Bermuda on September 25th and just slowly organized itself.
Usually, these monster storms form from tropical waves coming right off the coast of Africa, but Joaquin decided to be entirely different. Early computer models actually predicted the system would dissipate within 96 hours because of strong wind shear. Spoiler alert, the computers were incredibly wrong.
Oh, completely wrong. High sea surface temperatures, about 2 degrees Fahrenheit above normal, fueled a sudden period of rapid intensification. By October 1st, it had exploded into a Category 4 major hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and reports indicate it reached sustained winds of 155 miles per hour at its peak a couple of days later on October 3rd.
And here's where its path gets really bizarre. Instead of curving north and out to sea like most storms in that specific area, a high-pressure ridge pushed Joaquin southwest. It literally meandered over the southern Bahamas, dropping its eye wall right on top of several vulnerable islands.
The devastation there was absolute. We're talking about places like Acklins, Crooked Island, Long Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador Island. The storm moved so slowly that it just sat there, churning and destroying everything in its path. On Crooked Island, floodwaters up to 5 feet deep submerged at least 70% of the landmass.
The infrastructure damage was catastrophic. A private weather station there recorded gusts of 148 miles per hour before it completely failed. Worse still, 2 massive fuel tanks were shifted off their bases, spilling over 10,000 gallons of fuel into the ground. While it was initially feared that the leak contaminated the residential wells, reports indicate they were actually contaminated by septic tank seepage, leaving the locals entirely without clean drinking water.
It was a logistical nightmare for relief efforts. All 59 cell sites belonging to the Bahamas Telecommunications Company went offline. Entire islands were cut off from the outside world. On Long Island, some sources suggest an 18-foot storm surge pushed 12 feet of water into people's homes. Loretta Butler Turner, the district's member of parliament, estimated that 75% of the local fishing vessels were destroyed. That is absolutely devastating for a community so heavily reliant on the ocean for their livelihood. And speaking of San Salvador Island, Joaquin did something highly unusual. It made landfall from the southwest. Because of this bizarre angle of approach and its slow speed, the storm surge was evenly distributed across the entire island. The main power plant lost its roof, and the airport terminal was basically left in ruins.
Local residents actually criticized the government initially, claiming they received inadequate warning, though the National Emergency Management Agency maintained that warnings were issued, but people simply refused to evacuate. It is a classic, tragic breakdown in communication when facing an unpredictable storm.
We need to shift gears for a moment, Hari, because the ocean was incredibly unforgiving during this hurricane. While Joaquin was battering the Bahamas, a massive tragedy unfolded offshore.
Yes, the sinking of the Faro. This was a 791-foot American cargo ship caught right near the hurricane's eye wall. The ship had 33 crew members aboard, 28 Americans and 5 Poles. They were battling seas that were 20 to 30 feet high.
On the morning of October 1st, the vessel reported that it had lost propulsion and was beginning to list. Hurricane Hunter aircraft actually flew dangerously low to try and spot them, but they could not see anything through the storm. It sparked a massive multi-agency search covering over 242,000 square miles.
They only found scattered debris, a partially submerged life raft, some cargo containers, and an oil sheen. The search was called off on October 7th. It was not until a full month later that a Navy salvage team using deep ocean sonar found the wreckage, resting 15,000 feet below the surface.
It is incredibly heartbreaking. The Coast Guard and the National Transportation Safety Board eventually concluded that the captain underestimated the weather and overestimated the ship's capabilities. A major contributing factor to the loss of life was that the Faro had not been updated to modern safety regulations, meaning they relied on open lifeboats instead of enclosed ones.
Just an absolute tragedy. But the impact of Joaquin rippled out much further than just the Bahamas and the open sea. Beyond the islands, coastal flooding wreaked havoc in the Turks and Caicos, Cuba, and Haiti. In Haiti, storm tides destroyed crops and tragically killed a fisherman, though the Coast Guard did manage to rescue 12 crew members from another sinking vessel nearby.
Joaquin's reach was staggering. And speaking of reach, even though the storm never made a direct landfall on the United States, it caused massive destruction there as well. Right. An atmospheric river drew tremendous moisture from Joaquin into a separate weather system over the southeast. This caused a historic 1-in-1,000-year rain event in South Carolina, dumping up to 27 inches of rain, causing $2 billion in damage, and tragically taking 25 lives.
The storm then passed west of Bermuda, causing only minor damage, before pulling one last bizarre trick. It accelerated east, went extratropical, and its remnants actually reached Portugal on October 12th. It literally crossed the entire Atlantic Ocean before dissipating over the Gulf of Cadiz.
Looking back, the aftermath in the Bahamas really set a grim stage for the region. Joaquin caused around $120 million in damage across the archipelago. And tragically, it was just the beginning. It was the first of 4 major hurricanes to hit the Bahamas in a 4-year span.
Yes, they were battered by Matthew the very next year, Irma in 2017, and then the catastrophic Dorian in 2019. 4 major hurricanes resulting in over $4 billion in combined losses.
A completely devastating streak. Because of the heavy toll on the Bahamas and the tragic loss of the Faro crew, the World Meteorological Organization officially retired the name Joaquin in April 2016. It was permanently replaced with the name Julian for the 2021 season.
It is a very sobering reminder of how unpredictable and destructive these weather systems can be, especially when they completely defy all the standard forecasting models we rely on.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the unpredictable and devastating history of Hurricane Joaquin. Thank you all for tuning in, and stay safe out there.
This episode is based on the Wikipedia article Hurricane Joaquin, which is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. This podcast was crafted using artificial intelligence.